part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey, this is Chase Smith, founder and CEO of Press Play Podcast. You may have heard me on the Orange is Oranger Cleveland Browns podcast with Jeremy Powell, now wonderfully hosted by Holly Wetzel, Cavs on the Break NBA podcast with Sam Amico, or my own podcast, the Chase Smith Podcast. I wanted to take a few moments to talk to you about a brand new subscription-based podcast we're offering this football season, the Press Play Sports Podcast. This premium podcast feed will send all of the sports podcasts offered on the Press Play Podcast Network to one central feed. Yes, you can still follow and subscribe to all of our individual shows for free on every podcast platform. But if you wanted to consolidate your podcast feed and listen to them all in one location, the Press Play Sports Podcast is for you. I'm talking the Oranges and Oranger Browns podcast with Holly Wetzel and Jeremy Powell, Red Guy and Rhoda, Sable Brothers on the Baseline, Cavs on the Break, the Dennis Maniloff Show, the Ball Card Show, the Premium Fantasy Podcast, a Swing in a Tribe MLB podcast, and the Tim and Shipe Show, a college football podcast, all in one feed. All 9 of our sports shows curated into one single podcast feed. Out the door, you're looking at $5.36 a month after tax. That's $5.36, just about the cost of a drink at Starbucks. And this is only offered on Apple Podcasts. You can't get this anywhere else. It's an Apple Podcast exclusive. Just go to the search bar and search Press Play Sports. It'll come up and you can subscribe from there. We're excited to offer this consolidated, curated sports feed for you to enjoy. And as always, thank you so much for listening and your support.
This episode of the Orange is Oranger Cleveland Browns podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network, is brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Align Health Center. Align Health Center is the first chiropractic biophysics clinic in Northern Ohio. The team at Align Health Center helps patients with back pain, neck pain, migraines, ADHD, digestive issues, sleep disturbance, whiplash, scoliosis, and much more. And along with chiropractic biophysics, Align Health Center is also the leading clinic in regenerative medicine, also known as stem cell injections. And listen, you don't have to be an NFL player to get it done or have this treatment. If you have low back pain, shoulder pain, knee pain, or arthritis, check out the Regenerative Medicine Clinic at Aligned Health Center. Come in for a free consultation, complete with imaging and x-rays to see how Aligned Health Center can help you. No multiple shots are needed, and it's complete with physical therapy built into the process, so there's no downtime. And look, it gets even better. Align Health Center doesn't charge people for x-rays or exams, and they don't bill you later. They let you know right away the cost. They're upfront and transparent. They are number one for a reason. Call Align Health Center today at 440-385-7357 or visit their website at alignedhealthcenters.com to make an appointment and to learn more about how Align Health Center can help you. Again, that's 440-385-7357 or visit alignedhealthcenters.com.
45-40, run, William, run! He's got blockers in front, 5, touchdown! Joshua Cribb! Snap back, ball down, kick block! They blocked the kick!
Hello and welcome into the Orange is Oranger Cleveland Browns podcast. I'm your host, Holly Wetzel, at Holly and Liz on Twitter. And I'm joined as always with my partner in crime, Mr. Jeremy Powell, Browns insider. Jeremy, it has never felt so good to be wrong.
You know, it's funny. We always are in the same spot because I was thinking the same thing. We had nailed everything for 4 or 5 weeks.
We did.
But this one time, I was so glad to be so wrong. We were wrong. We were way wrong.
But we never know. Right. We never know what team
gladly wear it.
Yes.
We will gladly wear it.
100%. And it was a major win, by the way, against Cincinnati Bengals, which I feel like we basically own the Bengals these last couple of years. I mean, they have had no chance. But it was even more sweeter coming off of such a tumultuous week for this club to end the week with that spanking of the Bengals, which I consider Sundays, by the way, the end of the week, not the beginning. So I don't know. I always say end of the week, but sure felt better than normal to win. So to talk about this week's win, the Browns season so far, and the Patriots coming up, we welcome in our guest of the hour, a first-timer on the Orange is Oranger Browns podcast. He is a 2002 National College Football Champion playing for the Ohio State University, a 4-year NFL veteran drafted in the 3rd round by the Minnesota Vikings, followed by some time with the Eagles and the Bills. You can now hear him on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan in Cleveland as a co-host of the Bull and Fox Show and as a college football analyst on ESPN. And he's also, my favorite, a fellow Dateline lover like myself. So Dustin Fox, welcome. We are so excited to have you join us today.
Yes.
What's up, guys? How we doing?
We're good.
Doing great. You forgot the number one thing. He's steady. He's the hardest working man in show business. And he's steady.
He's got so many nicknames. My favorite is Duffy, but that one works too. So he's got many. But Dustin, thanks so much for joining us today. Appreciate you taking the time.
You're welcome. What's up, guys? What's going on? We talking some Browns victory Monday or what?
We are. Yes, this is
Absolutely.
huge. So let's get into this week's win over the Bengals, 41-16. Did not even have them over 17 points for this week since they barely even scored that, I think, the last month or so. But what was really cool, I think, too, about this game, besides so many of the obvious points, is that there were so many big plays and a lot of big plays that we haven't seen really from the Browns this year. So we haven't really seen a lot of flashy big stops by our defense. We haven't seen any deep throws from Baker that really ended in a score in the end zone, or really seen anything game changing from our secondary. But for this game, it sure had everything, resulting in, of course, we played well on both sides of the ball at the same time. So that's a first here for the Browns and for this season. So a couple highlights, which I can't even tell you how many highlights we got here. Denzel Ward setting the tone, huge pick six, running it back, 99 yards. Mm-hmm. Baker and DPJ connected on a deep throw for a touchdown, and DPJ had 86 yards on two huge plays. Mayfield was 14 of 21 for 218 yards, had a massive passer rating of 132.6. Our Browns D was fantastic, 5 sacks, 6 hits, and 19 total pressures on Joe Burrow. Miles Record had 3 of those and 5 of those total pressures. Nick Chubb, ran for 137 yards on 2 touchdowns. Wyatt Teller had a huge block for Chubb on that run. Troy Hill was blitzing like a motherfucker. And the Browns became the first team since the 1967 San Diego Chargers to record an interception return for a touchdown, a receiving TD, a rushing touchdown of at least 60 yards in a single game. I mean, I could keep going. This was fantastic. So Dustin, let's start. I wanted to know, where did you stand before going into this game? Because, boy, lots of emotions and a lot of different takes you could have. So where were you at? Were you confident with them at all? Did you feel like, the mojo was going to be, not very good?
I didn't think the Browns were going to win this game. I just felt like everything had gone against them the previous week with all of the OBJ stuff, the Baker stuff with the coach and the GM. Like, it just felt like a game the Browns were going to have a hard time with. And obviously Cincinnati was coming off a tough loss to the Jets. And I thought that they would come in pretty motivated to play the Browns. And they were. I mean, listen, they came out, they went right down the field. I thought that Denzel Ward set the tone. You mentioned, Holly, with the interception for 99 yards. I think that may have saved the Browns season, frankly, because if Cincinnati scores that touchdown right there to start the game, you never know how things go. But they came out and they played well in all 3 phases of the game. I really thought that the defense kind of, if I had to give credit to one area or one side of the football, I'd give it to the defense just a little bit more than the offense, just because I thought the 3 turnovers helped the offense. They got points off of turnovers. Denzel was great. The secondary as a whole played fantastic in the ball game. Greg Newsome's turning into one of the better corners in the entire league before our very eyes. I thought Troy Hill was sensational. 3 sacks in a game. I believe that was a Browns record for a secondary player. So, no, I was surprised. I really was, and I give credit to Kevin Stefanski and his staff, because they kept this team together. And I think for the first time, we saw how this team would face some sort of adversity, because they really haven't faced adversity up until now. Let's be honest. I mean, they had the COVID year last year, but every team had COVID. They had to deal with it. So this was the first time that Stefanski had to face some sort of adversity and get his guys to rally, and they did, and they deserve a ton of credit for the victory. Listen, I could have gone either way with the game. The Browns, the spread was 2.5 points or what have you. And I think Bull and I both picked the Bengals. I know I did. I think he did too. But no, it was a surprising win, 41-16, and the Browns ran only 46 plays in the game. Just amazing how well they played against the Bengals.
Dustin, do you really think the OBJ was that big of a distraction or weight on Baker that it caused the offense to look that much different? I mean, we do have a large sample size of Baker under Stefanski with Odell and without him. What do you think it is the most? Is it mentally for Baker? Is it the way Odell runs routes? What do you think it is that causes him to have so much problems, getting together and getting on the same page?
I'm with a lot of people. I think that there's a lot of pressure that Odell brings on people, and I don't think he means to do it. I don't think it's ill-willed. I don't think he tries to manipulate. I don't think he tries to make himself a big deal, but he's a rock star. And when he's around, guys tend to gravitate towards him. I think that Baker felt the pressure to get him the football. And when he wasn't getting the ball, I just think it threw the offense out of rhythm. I think the timing of the offense was thrown off. And whether you agree with that or not, the stats sort of backed it up. Mm-hmm. I know that the games that Baker played without Odell, it wasn't always against the toughest opponent, but it's still, the numbers were significantly better without Odell. And you just can't really put your finger on why that would be the case. But I mean, again, Odell's gone, and all of a sudden this offense starts clicking, and Chubb gets going, and the defense plays better, and Baker plays better, throws 2 touchdown passes in the game. So it for some reason is addition by subtraction. And, good luck to Odell wherever he goes. I don't think he's a bad guy. I think he handled things poorly on the way out, the way he didn't communicate things to his teammates and to his coach. But nonetheless, it was the right decision for them to move on from him. And I think the Browns now are better because of it.
So, Dustin, you mentioned then if it's more of a play thing more than a pressure on Baker and more of a personal thing. I mean, you have been in an NFL locker room many times as a former player. You have an insight and knowledge of what it's like in that locker room more than most people on this planet. So when you're in a situation like that with a teammate that's unhappy, and pulls that type of stunt to get out. And I know it's a little bit different because social media wasn't around really, not to age you. I mean, I'm right around your age, but it really wasn't. I mean, MySpace was around. I mean, there was nothing really going on back then for these type of outlets to give these players or their dads or whoever to post stuff. So does it really have that much of an impact? I mean, if you look Sunday, you'd never know, right? I mean, it was, if anything, obviously a million times better than what we thought it could be. But, my brother and I were texting. We're like, is there going to be a major rift in the locker room? There's a lot of love that was shown to him when he left. And I know that he had a lot of really great relationships with a lot of players and friendships. Even Baker called him a friend in his press conference right after the game. With a player like that in a situation like that in that locker room, is there really that much of a divide that maybe we think there is as a fan viewpoint, or is it really just out of sight, out of mind at that point, and you're moving forward and ready for the game?
I'm sure when they found out the news, there was some sort of I wouldn't call it a rift, but the players were probably taken aback by it. And as they went throughout the week, you go to once you go to practice and you're on the field and you're in the meeting rooms and you're talking to your coaches, you're not really thinking about all the bullshit. You're just thinking about the game, right? You're just thinking about what your task is, what the game plan is, what I'm supposed to do on third down. What is our goal for this day? And you work the day. Now, when you get away from the building and you go home and you're having dinner and you're talking to your girlfriend or your wife or whatever, and your friends, and the stuff comes up, or you're on Twitter or you're on Instagram out of the building, I think that's when the stuff kind of can fester. And that's why guys, put out the stupid posts, and John Johnson was posting some stuff, and some other guys had posted a couple of things to social media. But I think when you're actually focused in the building, and certainly on game day, you're not worried about those things. Those things are in the past. You're locked in. You know what I mean? You don't worry about that stuff.
Does it become kind of like more of an individual thing? Like Baker's probably thinking, I got to get paid. I got to do my job. Like, I'm the only one looking out for me is me. My dad used to tell me that with jobs, like the only one looking out for you at your work is you. So is that type of mentality then that it's like, no, I gotta do what's best for me and the team and move forward.
It's more what's best for the team. I don't think Baker is out there every day worrying about him and his contract. He knows that if the team has success, he's going to get paid, and his contract will take care of itself. So I don't think it's a selfish thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more, for some players it is, but like when you're on a good team, I think it's more about winning. And like for example, Jarvis Landry. That's a good example. He's best friends with Odell, and he could have hard feelings towards the Browns because of how things were handled or whatnot, but he showed up. He was a pro, made some catches, made some blocks, like did his job, didn't say a word about it. So I think guys can separate the two when it comes to being a pro and getting on the field and trying to work towards a common goal.
Holly, let me jump in on that, because I think that's been kind of overblown. Baker Mayfield, with his endorsements and rookie contract, has already made more money than any of us will see in our lifetimes. Like, Baker's set up financially. Baker's a competitor. Me and you have been as hard on Baker as anybody, Holly, right? We have been super hard on him. But I don't think
realistically, Jeremy, let's give ourselves a little credit. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, we were realistic in our criticism. We're not over the top. We're not haters.
Right.
But Baker is a competitor. Baker wants to win. The money will take care of itself, like Dustin said. I don't think Baker thinks when he goes out there, oh shit, if I don't do this, I'm not going to get paid. I don't think that ever crosses his mind. I don't think it's even a thought at this point. Right. I think there's maybe some ego things, whatever. But I don't think money has anything to do with anything that Baker is thinking right now. I think his competitive side is what takes over, and his competitor in him is what wants to win. Look, what do we say? The number one thing about Baker, his number one trait is what? He's moxie. He's a leader. Guys follow him. Guys are willing to follow. So I don't think Baker worries that much about the money, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think he does either. I think the money will take care of itself, like you said, Jeremy. As long as he plays well and the team has success, they've got no options. They could franchise tag him after next season for 2 years if they wanted to. There's options for him. It doesn't have to be a long-term contract right away. We know he's locked up for next season. He's going to make a good salary. And if I'm the Browns, I'm probably going to just watch for another season and see what happens with this guy and see how, he's going to have surgery this offseason. He's not playing at 100% right now. Let's see how he comes back from the surgery and plays next year, and then make a decision after the season, or maybe even midseason if you want to. If you decide you want to give the guy a long-term contract, that's fine. They can do that, but they're not stuck by any means to give him a contract. And I think they're in a good position because they have the flexibility to franchise tag him if they want.
Yeah. Well, talk about that injury for a second, Dustin. I feel like every week it's been part of the narrative, not part of the narrative, used as an excuse, but not supposed to be used as an excuse. Jeremy and I kind of landed last week as in, he didn't look that hurt in Pittsburgh. I know that he's all braced up. I feel like his arm gets bigger and bigger on a brace every week at this point. But, we kind of both decided it's like, I don't want to hear it then. Like if he's not hurt and he's out there playing, you don't want to hear it as an excuse anymore. So,
right.
Do you know much about that injury? Have you experienced that, or someone that you played with at the time, or someone that you know? And is it doesn't seem to be affecting him from our standpoint right
Not this week at all, at least.
No.
Looked fine. Yeah. I thought it affected him in the previous week against the Steelers, but that game he was taking a lot of hits. I think he may have been in a little bit more pain that game. Do I know somebody who've had it? Yeah, tons of guys, my teammates of mine have had that sort of injury, a torn labrum in their shoulder. I have not. I've had a separated shoulder many times, but it's painful. And I've talked to multiple doctors on my show who have sort of explained to us what he's going through, and it's painful. It's one of those deals where, that brace that he wears on his left shoulder is used to sort of kind of lock that shoulder in place to keep it from popping out of socket, because the labrum is that soft tissue that surrounds the it's like a ball in a socket, right? The humerus there, of course, with the clavicle, and it sits there and it can pop in and out when it doesn't have a labrum. So they got to protect that thing by holding it in. And when you turn your body and twerk your body to turn to throw the football, that clavicle, your collarbone, I should say, across the way, it's all connected, right? So like when you turn, it can be really. This is what I've been told. So I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to play one, but I'm just passing the information along what the doctors have said. That it can be really, really painful, but the harness can help. I'm sure there's some modern medicine that he's dealing with that can help as well with some of that pain on game day. But it's something that he's going to have to play with. And like I said on my show, if he can't play with it, then I'd shut him down and I'd play Case Keenum. And that's why, some people went after me for my tweet after the Steelers game, but I really probably should have clarified. I thought that he was high on a lot of his throws because he was injured.
Right.
And
Exactly.
if he's injured, then I want to see what Case Keenum can do in this offense because he knows it very well. But it wasn't really much. I don't hate Baker Mayfield. I was the biggest advocate for the Browns to draft him a few years back. So that's all it was. I mean, and the guy's as tough as nails. He's as tough as they come. No one ever would question his toughness. He really is extremely tough and wants to gut through everything and wants to be a great teammate and everything else. But at the point it becomes a detriment to his teammates and his team, then he has to shut himself down because he I don't think knows how to do that.
That's not a question for you being an expert when it comes to secondary play. Do you think some of the Browns' early struggles had to do with guys not being on the field and guys not playing together in the past? Because it looks like when we have our frontline guys out there, we might have one of the better secondaries in the league. Do you think there is something to that these guys needed to gel a little bit and kind of get together on these coverages and schemes to get it to where they want it to be?
I don't think there's any question, Jeremy. These guys needed some time to gel, learn what Joe Woods wants them to do, and for Joe Woods to understand what his players do well. It's not like Joe Woods may have an idea of what he sees his defense becoming or what he sees it to be, but until you really know the strengths and weaknesses of your players, you can't really implement those schemes until you really recognize those things. So I think it's taken some time here for them to recognize where guys have strengths, like to know that Troy Hill can really be aggressive blitzer off the edge, to know that Greg Newsome is a lockdown corner, to know how Denzel plays, to know how John Johnson plays. These guys back there, AJ Green, who filled in for Greedy when he got hurt. So, there's lots of players back there who are new faces for this defense. And yeah, I think it's taken some time. And now you get guys are healthy back there. Your defensive line is becoming healthy. That helps. The pass rush is my best friend as a secondary player. So those guys are really doing a good job up front. But yeah, no, I think it's definitely taken some time. And look, we're 9 games into the season. The Browns are 5-4. The last couple games, have been up and down. But the secondary, I think, is really starting to come together. I think Greg Newsome I think he's going to be a star as a cornerback. He may be the best cornerback on this team, and that's saying a lot because you took Denzel at number 4, a couple years back, and he was supposed to be the lockdown corner. I think the lockdown corner on this team right now might be Greg Newsome.
Yeah, he's been super impressive, and it was definitely exciting to see the secondary kind of come alive last game. Dustin, what grade would you give Stefanski right now up to this point?
Probably like a B+. He last year was an A.
Yeah.
Coach of the year, did everything right. Didn't have any adversity. I think to this point, he's been pretty good. They lost 3 out of 4 games, and he's got the team kind of righted the ship this past week. I think how he handled the Odell stuff was questionable at first, but then I realized, obviously behind the scenes, he was handling things probably better than he doesn't really talk to the media that much.
Yeah.
He talks to him a lot, but he doesn't really say shit.
Oh, he says the same thing over and over.
Yeah. The Indians and the Browns are the best organizations in sports at saying a whole bunch of stuff while not saying anything at all. It's impressive, man.
They're all like clones of each other. They all like say the same things.
Yeah,
and
they really are.
And find ways to dance around questions.
I know, Dustin, I think you said at one point on your show that if you want to try to fall asleep, put on Stefanski's presser.
Yeah, it's not the most riveting press conferences to say the least. But no, I think he's done a fine job. B+ is probably what I'd give him. B+.
Dustin, I got to ask you this. So we've had Mike Lombardi on a few times. We've had some other guys on in front office situations. I'm of the belief that Bitonio, Treader, Teller is the best guard center guard combo in the league. Lombardi agrees. Teller, as we know, is going to be an unrestricted free agent after the season. Lombardi said he would do whatever it takes to re-sign him. He said all you have to do is look at Tampa Bay to see how important the offensive line is. He said he would do whatever it takes to re-sign him. Where are you on that? Would you break the bank, or would you give Teller the big dollars he's probably going to command in free agency? And do you think they are the best center guard combo in the league right now?
Oh, goodness gracious. I mean, you put me on the spot. I mean, I don't follow every center guard in the league.
Yeah, obviously.
So I'm probably biased when I'd say that, yes, I think that they probably are the best in the league. And I agree with Lombardi. Like, I would do whatever it takes to sign Wyatt Teller. I think this guy is just an absolute mauler on the defense, or on the offensive line, rather. I think he's a beast. He brings a nastiness to that group that I'm not saying that the other guys aren't nasty, but like this dude's nasty. Like this dude's a bad mofo, man. Like he is like a dude you don't want to run into like in like a back alley, like in a dark night, right? Like that's the kind of dude he is. So I would break the bank for him if you have to. I don't know if they have the money. I mean, there's a lot of dudes that need paid, but I think with the way this offense is designed with the running attack, I think you almost have to try to find a way to get him back.
One thing, Dustin, I don't know if you saw on Chubb's run, the way he laid somebody out on that play. He is the best guard I've ever seen at blocking little guys. That just shows his athleticism. He's constantly, right. I don't do the famous with Honey Badger when he laid Honey Badger out and Honey Badger's laughing about it. Like, he is so athletic that he's able to get upfield, maintain his control, and then lay out a guy. It just seems so rare to be that big and that in control. And I think, I know it's tough, and I know we're going to get into waters we haven't been into because we haven't had a franchise quarterback, and we're not going to be able to pay everybody. I just think you got to make a point to pay Wyatt Teller. I don't know. I don't think there's many guys like him out there.
I agree 100%.
All right. Well, after coming off that awesome win, we have a big statement game coming up. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll talk little Patriots coming up.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sable.
And I'm Scott Sable, and we're hosts of the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
For the Dennis Maniloff Show, I'll tap into my 40-plus years of following Cleveland sports and 30-plus years of writing and talking about them, so as to bring you informed opinions and analysis of your favorite players and teams. I also will monitor the national sports scene and, when warranted, step out of the toy department and into the real world. And I'll always be on the lookout for special guests. By all means, join us.
Hey, it's JD from the Hyman Podcast. I created this podcast to have hard conversations. Conversations that make us human but are also wildly uncomfortable. Conversations that help give voice to the voiceless and to the marginalized. Now you can listen to the entire first season on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Consider this your personal invitation to join the conversation.
Hey everybody, I'm Gary.
And I'm Jason. Opening cards as a kid, no matter what was in the pack, you always had that stick of chewing gum. Well, it turns out Gary and I opened up a box of 86 Tops last year, and let me tell you, the chewing gum does not age well.
Join us on the Ball Card Show,
the sports podcast for the sports collector.
This is Mike Voorhees, co-host of the Swingin' a Tribe MLB podcast. If you love Cleveland Indians baseball, then this is the pod for you. We've got you covered each week as we talk about all the games, breaking news, trades, the roster, all things Tribe. You're going to love it. Go Tribe.
Hey, it's Tito, host of the Premier Fantasy Podcast. Get all the news and analysis you need to dominate your fantasy league. I've been doing this as long as anybody in the business. I can help give you the edge in your leagues. It's the Premier Fantasy Podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Want to hear more about your favorite TV shows and movies that are on countless streaming services?
Then listen to Up Next with your new favorite hosts, me, Kristen Aviles,
And me, Christina Walter.
Every other week, we'll highlight one genre, but 2 movies or TV shows, one old and one new.
We'll let you know what's hot and what's not from your favorite
or least favorite
streaming services.
And be sure to stay tuned to the end of each episode where we shout out an artist whose name you should know for their talent in the industry.
So follow us to stay up to date with your favorite hosts from Up Next,
a part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
All right, we are back on the Orange is Oranger Cleveland Browns podcast. I'm Holly Wetzel, joined, of course, with Jeremy Powell and our super special guest, first timer on the Orange is Oranger, Mr. Dustin Fox.
Super special. Oh, boy.
Super special.
Oh, boy. Is it the extra special hookup?
You're getting the extra special Dustin, extra special Holly hookup. Okay, that's what's happening today. So, Dustin, we'll get to the hard-hitting questions at the end of like, who's your favorite Dateline host and why? But until we get there, let's talk some Patriots. So, I feel like every single week we're like, well, it's a must-win game. It's a big game.
It is. The Browns are 5-4. Everybody's 5-4.
That's the thing. It's so up for grabs. And Jeremy and I were talking last week. We're like, man, if we take this win, we're right back in it. So right now the AFC playoffs, of course, is always at the top of mind. And both the Browns and the Patriots still have, of course, a shot to win their respective divisions. But games like these within the conference are obviously both super vital for potential for tiebreakers. So, Dustin, coming up here, what do you think is the Browns' biggest threat facing New England on Sunday?
The Browns' biggest threat? Probably Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any other person or player that would worry me more than just going into Foxborough on the road and facing Bill, because he's such a wily veteran coach that just finds way. He's got a rookie quarterback who's played very sort of average at times, but he's played okay at times. But he's got the team 5-4, and they're right in the hunt in the AFC East. They're right in the hunt for the wild card, even if they don't win the division. And look what happened last time, Holly. They went into New England. Chubb had his worst game. The Patriots obviously dominated that game. It's a tough place to play.
Yep.
I know Tom's not running out there and all that, but it's still, to me, it's
got the Tom remnants though, doesn't it? The Tom remnants are still flowing through New England.
The remnants.
Yeah, it's a tough place to play. It really is.
It's funny. I remember that game, Dustin. You remember it was a rainy night in Foxborough. This is how obsessed I was. I guess I still am with the Browns. I still get weather alerts that come to my phone through AccuWeather because I set the weather alert to my phone so I know the weather was going to be that night. So I know how bad the weather was going to be. So every once in a while I'll get a weather report for Foxborough pop up. I'm like, oh yeah, that reminds me of that game that Nick Chubb. Actually, I think Nick Chubb's going to have a big game this week. He actually would have had a big game. And I remember he fumbled on like a 55-yard run. He was running all over him. He just couldn't hold on to the ball. So I think that you're going to see something similar, but you're right. Anytime you have to go to Foxborough, that's going to be a raucous environment. The whole country is going to get the game. I saw, almost the whole country. Bill obviously is going to have them schemed up and ready to go. Kevin Stefanski said today he has never met Bill Belichick. So
I was surprised when he said that.
He said it today. Yep.
You've been coaching the league for 15 years.
Yeah.
You'd think at some point, whether it be at the combine or at one of these coaches conventions or the Senior Bowl or something, you come across Belichick. I was surprised to hear him say he's never met him.
So yeah, I think all those things factored in. It'll be interesting. It's going to be just an interesting, the Kevin Stefanski versus Bill Belichick dynamic. All that's going to make for an interesting game.
Speaking of Belichick, though, side note, did you see his outfit last Sunday? We want to talk some NFL wardrobe. That might have been one of the worst I've seen.
I saw that coming into the game. I'm not sure what was going on there. Oh,
Dustin, I don't know if you saw, but he had his pants were too short.
Oh no, I saw that. Yeah, he doesn't give a shit about how he looks. No. He walks in, he's like, "I'm fucking Belichick. I'm gonna wear sweatpants like I'm like a child," and he just does it to almost troll everybody.
Yes,
he doesn't 100%. Care.
Yes,
100%. Cuts the sleeves off his hoodie. It's incredible.
Any other coach, people would be ripping him. Right. And saying this guy's unprofessional, blah, 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 blah. Not with Belichick. Belichick can do whatever the hell he wants.
Yes, he can. That's true. Jeremy, what do you think? What's the biggest threat you think the Browns are going to be facing on Sunday?
I agree with. I think it's the head coach. Exactly. It's the head coach. Obviously, he's got them buying in because, like Dustin said, they're not an explosive offense. They don't have great skill players. They have a rookie quarterback. They have some names on defense. They have some guys who can play. I know I'm a big Matthew Judon fan. I think he's an Dante Hightower. They got some guys who can play on defense, but they're not. You don't look at their roster and go, oh my gosh, look at these guys. It's not that thing. It's just he's got guys that buy into what he does, and it's going to be tough. No matter what, you're going to be in for a game. We're not going to go in there and blow them out. You're going to have to play for 60 minutes of football, but yeah, that's my biggest worry is the game planning aspect of it, and that Bill will have them ready to play. It's a big game for both of us.
Yep. Yeah, it would definitely be a really big Browns statement road win for sure. Yeah. So with that being said, it's prediction time. So Dustin, Jeremy and I always give our predictions at the end.
So what do you got? It's so early in the week and it's tough without seeing the injury report, all that, but
that's the fun part.
The way too early prediction.
Well, I reserve judgment or reserve the right rather to change my pick by Friday if I want to. Because
Friday.
I don't know what's going to happen in the next couple of days. I mean,
exactly.
They could suspend Mac Jones for twisting that dude's ankle.
That was so. Oh, by the way, how dirty was that? I heard all his excuses. I thought he had the ball. Come on, man. That was a blatant attempt to sprain his ankle. It was awful. I can't even believe it.
Yeah, terrible. No, it was bad. You want me to go first or what?
Go ahead. Go first.
Right now, early prediction.
Early prediction. I think the Browns are going to win.
Yeah.
I think they've righted the ship. I think this game against Cincinnati really got them sort of back on track. And, if I was forced to, gun to my head, the spread's 1.5. So obviously Vegas thinks it's going to be a really close game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's going to be a close game too, but I'll take the Browns on the road to get the dub.
All right, Jeremy.
I agree. And I think what I said earlier, I think Nick Chubb's going to have a big game again. I think the Browns are going to ride him for a few weeks until we get Kareem Hunt back. Now, we could be getting Kareem Hunt news on Wednesday, but I think that the formula is like this week. I think make a couple big plays on defense. I think it was 23 rushes, 21 pass attempts. I think that's where the Browns need to live.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to live at the, 50-50, make sure we don't forget about Chubb, keep him in the offense. Let's ride him for a few weeks here. And I think the Browns win this game. I think it's a little bit, lower scoring. I'm going to say like a 27-17 type game, but I think the Browns win.
Yeah. I mean, I'm riding the Browns win high today on this Victory Monday. So
yes,
I'm going to, at least for now, I think we can all reserve the right to change our pick by the end of the week. With that, Dustin. So I will say 24-21 Browns. I think that we're gonna sneak it out. And this was about this time last year with the Bengals game. I think that we turned the corner when OBJ went out. What the game was it, that game or the game before when we lost him? So no, I think we have some sunny skies ahead. For the Browns.
Scunny skies.
Tell you what, it's been a long ass day. So if that's what it's going to be, then that's what it's going to be.
Holly, before we go, I know Dustin is a huge Cavs fan like me. What do you think of Evan Mobley? And did you see him hit those 2 threes in the fourth quarter last night? If he expands his game where he can consistently hit that shot, he's going to be something special.
Dude, I think he's like the next Chris Bosh.
I've been saying he even looks like him lengthwise. I think he's actually
we got the bigs. We got the bigs this year.
He's a little more athletic, I think, Chris Bosh, too, the way he gets up. So if he can hit that shot consistently, even if he can get a mid-range shot and start hitting that 3 consistently, man, oh, man, and all accounts about the guy from his college coaches is that he's like the humble superstar, that he's a guy that doesn't act like he's, king of the world, that he'll listen, take coaching. And if that's the case, man, oh, man, we might have finally hit on it. I don't know if you saw Jared Allen won Player of the Week this week. NBA Player of the Week, first time since LeBron left, the Cavs have NBA Player of the Week.
Oh, yep. Big Browns fan LeBron. So
yeah,
strategically not tweeting the word Browns for the game.
I'm here to represent the Cowboys, man. I'm here to represent the Cowboys. Browns fan LeBron, lifelong Browns fan.
Lifelong Browns fan, die hard. All right. And then, Dustin, we got to end it on of course, some type of murder note. So if you are ever on Dateline, who do you want?
I love me some murder.
I know you love murder.
I love murder.
So who's going to be doing your story? Who's your pick? If you're ever on Dateline. Okay.
Keith.
I figured.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It's got to be Keith, right?
See, Josh Mankiewicz is my dude. Mank is my man. So.
What do you mean?
So good.
Boy, oh boy.
Two-level split bungalow. Body.
I feel like you've done these impressions before, Dustin.
Just a
Duffy. Oh, all right. Well, big week this week. We'll see what happens on Friday. And yes, everyone is allowed to change their predictions.
We'll find
but we're all
out if the Browns can beat the Patriots.
You sound just like him, Dustin. If I close
so
my
good.
eyes, it's your Keith. I can't even handle it. I mean,
that's fantastic.
Oh God. There you go. That's the way to end it. There you go. All right.
He
well,
shot you a locker. No, he shot me in the face.
Oh man,
that's
so
the
good.
SNL version.
Man, oh man, I love me some Dateline. I cannot get enough.
So fun.
All right. Well, thank you, Dustin, very, very much for joining us today. Do not be a stranger. Come hang and chat with us anytime. We would love to have you back.
Absolutely.
So that is it for us on the Orange is Oranger Cleveland Browns podcast. If you're listening on Apple, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button for us. And we will be back next week, hopefully breaking down a big Browns road win on our way to the Scunny Skies in Cleveland, Ohio.
Scunny Skies.
Let's go. Let's go,
Let's
Browns.
go, Brownies.
Oh.
It's not in the